And now, live from downtown Amarillo, Texas, this is the Amarillo Pioneer Podcast. Here's your host and the editor of the Amarillo Pioneer, Thomas Warren.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to the Amarillo Pioneer Podcast again tonight, and we are excited to be speaking with another candidate running in the May 6th election cycle to represent you this year. And the candidate joining us tonight is Don Tipps. He's running for Amarillo City Council, place number 2, to replace Frida Powell. Frida Powell, of course, is running for mayor, so she's not running for re-election. And Don Tipps is running against 2 opponents for that open seat. And we're going to be talking to Don all about his priorities and why he's running and everything. But before we get into it, Don, thanks so much for being with us. And how are you today, sir?
Absolutely. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us. And, you know, I don't really feel like I have to do a whole lot of introduction for you because I think everybody in town is probably familiar with your name and face thanks to all the billboards. But, you know, either way, for people who aren't aware of you yet, they're not familiar with you and what all you've done, can you just take a few minutes to tell us about yourself and why you decided to run for council this year?
Yeah, sure. First off, I'm a lifetime resident of Amarillo, so born and raised here. I went to put myself through Amarillo College and then West Texas A&M. I'm a father of 4. I've got 2 grandkids with 2 on the way. I've owned my business, State Farm Agency, for 22 years. My wife and I are also real estate investors here in property that's here in town. So I've got a vested interest in Amarillo, and I have a passion for Amarillo. We can all, I think all of us residents, we kind of joke, about Amarillo and the wind and the dust and all the things. But my wife and I love to travel, but what we love even more is coming back home. So I've got a real passion for Amarillo, and I just felt called it's time for me to get off the sidelines and help lead our community. My youngest is 21 years old, so I've got the ability to put forth the time and the energy it's going to take to start listening to our community and take action and help lead Amarillo to prosper and grow and just bring back trust back to the council.
Excellent. Well, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about some of the priorities you would like to tackle if you're elected to the city council this year.
Well, there's, I think all of us, it's funny, Thomas, because we all have kind of the same, there's priorities there, top priorities and that kind of thing. One of mine is, just Amarillo's a great place to live and raise a family. Like I said before, I really want to just preserve the conservative values that our city was founded on. I want to help, develop some community standards that the majority of us can agree on to say, hey, this is what we want Amarillo to look like. This is why we love it. This is the way we want to keep it. So that's a big thing. Then, of course, all the same things, Tom. So, public safety, is a big thing that everybody brings up. Every one of the candidates bring up, public safety and infrastructure and all those kinds of things, right? But I think what's key to those, because to me that's all rhetoric. We can all spout off those things. If you go to our websites and you look, we can all say public safety and infrastructure and transparency and all those kinds of things, and that's great. I mean, don't get me wrong; those are important. But what those are driven by is the budget. So I think honestly, digging into the budget is a priority to me. That I want to dig into the budget, look at it, see where we can be more efficient, start looking at third party contracts that the city has. Just be be a better steward of the monies and the taxpayers that everybody's paying into, and say, okay, what can we do with this? I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. And then those priorities kind of fall in line, right? The infrastructure, the public safety, all those things, the parks, all those kinds of things. But and in that too, I want to help implement a new vision for City Hall. I want I want our city to be easy to do business with. Instead of it being a hurdle, I think the city should be able to be a partner with businesses. I think that our culture at City Hall needs to change. And I say this all the time to my staff too, but everybody needs to have a Chick-fil-A experience, right? When you call and pay your water bill or do whatever you do, I mean, it's you just feel better when you leave Chick-fil-A, and I think kind of needs to be the same thing with City Hall.
Sure. Well, let's talk about the budget and taxes right now. The legislature says we may get some kind of property tax relief this year. Who knows what that looks like, if that's even actually going to happen? Um,
Right.
but they say it every cycle. We'll see. But as far as on the local level, you're very familiar with this. Local taxpayers have gotten hit with a lot of property tax increases over the years. The cost of living just seems like it just keeps going up, especially with as bad as the economy is right now. Because they say we're not in a recession, but we all kind of know we are.
Right.
With the way the economy is and how expensive everything's gotten, and with the tax increases we've been facing, when is the right time for the city council to raise taxes? And if you're elected, are tax increases something is that something that's even going to be on the table right off the bat to fund the things you're talking about?
Yeah, no, not at all. And like I said, Thomas, I think the first thing we do is we look at the revenue that we have now, right? We look at the sales tax, we look at the ad valorem tax, we look at the revenues that are coming in or that we already have and are projected to come in, and we first start there, right? We start at the bottom and work up and say, okay, so this is what we have, and these are the expenditures or that we think that we're going to have. But no, I don't think new taxes are on the horizon at all. Now, not to say that that will never happen. I would never make that promise, but I think it's important to say, let's look at what we have, and maybe let's be a better steward of what we have. And then, Thomas, it's we all work within a budget, right? Every household works within a budget. Every business works within a budget. The city is no different. If we want something personally, if I want to buy a new truck or something like that, I have to figure out where that income is going to come from. Do we not go out to eat as much? How do I make this payment? The city's no different. It's give and take. So if we want certain things or we need certain things, we have to look and listen to the citizens and say, okay, what is important? Because we have limited resources. So what does that look like? What do we want to where do we want to put the money? So no, new taxes are not something that we need to jump on. Um, I think first we dive into the budget and look at it to see what we can free up and see where those funds need to be allocated first.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the budget, let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to these city council elections, and that is the Civic Center. We had the lawsuit filed by Alex Fairley last year, and let's just say, I mean, you can read it however you want, but let's just say there were some things that came out in that courtroom and in the decision from Judge Souter that were a little concerning, to say the least. And a lot of people have a lot of opinions about that attempt to renovate the Civic Center and the Civic Center project generally. So for you, as a prospective city council member, is the Civic Center a priority right now? And if it is, what should that project look like?
Okay. Well, I think, Thomas, I think we can all, and most citizens, no, not all, but most citizens can agree. If we take a tour of the Civic Center or look, and if we really look into it, what's required and what brings venues here or what makes people look at that as a great venue, it definitely needs to be renovated, and things need to happen, right? It just does. The Civic Center costs the city money every year. I don't know if most people know that, but they do. It does. It costs us money. And the only way to remedy that is to get more people to come. So it's one of those catch 22s of like, yes, we need to do renovations in order to bring people, but if we don't have the funds to do renovations, but yet if we don't have people, it's this back and forth thing. So yes, I do believe something needs to happen to the Civic Center. I do believe that we need to do that. We do need to renovate it and get it to where it's more attractive. However, I don't think, obviously, the way that it was done was not transparent in any way. Obviously, it was found to be illegal, actually. Um, but we do need to find a way and decide, is this a priority of ours? What do we need to do? Because we do need a place for people to come. And Amarillo geographically is a phenomenal place, for concerts, venues, trade shows, all these things to be here. but we have to have a place for it. So it is something we do need to take a look at, but I don't think it's something that we necessarily look at right now and go in debt for. And the taxpayers have already said this isn't something we want to foot the bill for. So we need to be creative and say, is there a public-private partnership we can do? Is there? We just need to start looking at other options and ask the city, what exactly do you want? Because we do need something. But again, it's like that new truck. It's like if we do this, here's some other things that's going to suffer, or we have to find a new way to get revenue. So yes, I do think something needs to happen, but taxes I don't think are the answer right now.
What do you think the most pressing need is at the Civic Center? Is it renovating, the auditorium or existing coliseum? Is it building a new arena? Is it addressing the convention space? What is it?
Gosh, Thomas, I would say really because we have to look at cost, right? We need to do a business feasibility study and say, okay, let's look at this. And if we do renovate the Coliseum, if we do renovate, the ballroom spaces, the trade show spaces, and that kind of thing, what's it going to bring? What? And of course, there's no guarantee. Just because we do it, it's not like build it and they will come, right? There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees at all. So I think we need to do a feasibility study. Okay, so if we do these, what can we anticipate? And do we have someone that's marketing and reaching out and letting these shows know and say, hey, these are the things that have been done. Please come back or please host your event here. More of a marketing versus building an arena, which is going to be extremely expensive, and then the revenue it generates. So I think we have to look at it. And personally, I don't know. I think everything has to be. I think we just have to look at the revenues that can be brought in versus the expenses that we're going to have to pay. So what makes the most sense, I think, is we look at both and say, okay, which one makes more sense? Then we go with that one.
That's a great answer. I want to ask you about this. You're talking more about the budget tonight than probably any candidate we've talked to so far for the city council races. And when you're talking about budgeting, you're talking about looking forward to the future. You're a business owner and you have experience with business. And it seems like in your race, you're really the only, career business person running. What benefit could Amarillo taxpayers expect from electing a business owner when it comes to budgeting and planning ahead for the future?
Well, I think exactly what I said is just being fiscally responsible, because again, our households are run with a budget, our businesses are run with a budget. There's no reason that the city needs to continue to go into debt, for things. Now there are things, right? The streets and the infrastructure. There are times that we can do it, and sometimes we can use debt to our advantage. So that's fine. But I think the taxpayers just need to realize, we're going to operate with transparency. You're going to see the expenses and the revenues that come in, and we're just going to be open with it, right? I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is the people that want to see, and we all know this. I mean, there's not very many people that pay attention, which is very unfortunate. But the ones that want to pay attention, it's like let's just get into the budget and relook at it because I don't know when the last time it was really looked at. You know, um, we had a meeting just last Wednesday with executive and the city manager and the assistant city managers to look at all the capital uh, projects over $2 million to see where they were. Are we over budget, under budget? Where are we? To get ready for this next budget cycle to say, okay, let's get a good picture of where we are. What kind of funds are we looking at? Where are we? So I think when you speak to a business owner, that's what we do every day, right? We have to make sure we make payroll. We have to make sure we have money for supplies. We have to make sure we have money for utilities. We have to make this is no different. Amarillo is a $500 million business. That's what we are. That is what Amarillo is. The citizens are shareholders, and they are electing 5 board members. One of them being the mayor, and the city manager is the CEO. So that's the way it needs to be looked at because that's what it is. We are directing a $500 million business, and so we need to do it with fiscal responsibility and treat this money, the taxpayer money, treat it as if it's our own, right? I mean, none of us just willy nilly spend money, right? We don't just go make you know, now perspective is everything, but we don't just go make $1,000 purchase in a whim. So the city doesn't the same thing. We don't need to just spend several $100,000 on a program or a study or something that we got to look at and say, is it important? I mean, what are we gaining from this? So I think we just treat the money like it's ours because it is. It's all the shareholders' money. So I think when they look at who to put in place, they need to look at someone that will treat that money as if it's theirs.
Absolutely. Well, one final policy question before we get into some of the fun stuff. I've asked everybody this, and it kind of comes out of left field because I think it's important to this area, but it's not something that gets really addressed at city council time. And that is the issue of water and access to water, and something that's really important to the panhandle because we have these heavy droughts in the summer. This economy out here lives and dies with water and access to water. And I know the city's taken an approach some years where they've said, hey, why don't you water on this day instead of this day to conserve water or something like that. If you're elected to city council, how are you going to make sure that Amarillo has the water it needs to thrive for years to come?
Well, I think just like anything else, I think we do need to be good stewards of it. And typically what we see, Thomas, is we wait until we are in crisis mode, right? All the suggestions that you just threw out of watering on certain days and doing this and doing that. To be honest, I think that probably needs to start now because we are in dire need of water. And before it becomes crisis, before Lake Meredith gets low, before the wells are pumping less and that type deal, I think we need to start initiating that now because just like you said, we live in a desert. I mean, we really do. We live in a desert. Water is everything. That's the lifeblood of everything that we do. The cattle, the industry, the crops, the everything that we do. And so I think we just need to begin now to begin preparing for the future. So we need to be wise and be good stewards of what we have now and start maybe initiating some of that. Now, do I like that? I don't, right? I don't like that. I don't like, being told when I can water and when I can't water and that kind of thing. But I think we need to educate the public and educate our community to say, hey, this is a problem. And we've got to address this problem now, not only to secure water rights, right? I mean, that's something I think we always need to look at. As city council, we need to look at how can we secure our water rights and how can we secure a future. I think right now it says like 200 years, but I we don't know. We don't know that with the water table and uh, the rains that we get or we don't get. But I think we start with education of our community and say, hey guys, let's, for our future and for our children and our grandchildren, let's be wise with our water. And maybe we begin that now before we're in crisis mode because it just seems like every community waits until we're in crisis and then starts those. I think it'd be better if we're a little bit more proactive instead of reactive.
Absolutely. Well, getting into the fun stuff, this year we've changed things up just a little. We have, every year we do these and we end up asking a lot of policy questions. I went back and looked at the interview we did with Cole Stanley last year. We sat here for 45 minutes talking about different issues. We're not going to do that tonight. But the thing is, every time we do one of these elections, people, they vote and then they don't really think about it afterwards. And win or lose, we all still have to live in the same community and we all should get to know each other a little better. And so we have a few get to know you questions that hopefully will let the people out there know a little bit more about who Don Tips really is off the ballot. Does that sound good if you want to jump right into these?
Sure.
Okay. So first thing right off the bat, what's your favorite thing about Amarillo?
Well, gosh, I would say the people. Like I said before, my wife and I love to travel, love to go and spend time and see other places and do that kind of thing. But we always talk about the people, walking down the street, doing our Amarillo is just, and it's not even just Texas, right? Because you can go to Dallas and you can go to different, good cities in Texas. People are different. Um, and Amarillans are just good. And that's truly not like a political answer. This is literally my wife and I have that discussion. We're like, people are just good here. Walking down the street or in the grocery store or in where people are just good, and it's enjoyable. It just makes Amarillo a great place.
Absolutely. What was your first job?
I graduated high school. Well, we're not going to count mowing yards, right? I think
Sure.
every guy probably mows yards at some point. First job, I worked at Payless Cashways as a lumber yard over on Western. And after high school, that's what I did.
And finally, what is something interesting about you that the voters out there probably don't know?
Oy, golly.
These are the toughest questions you're going to get all election, I'm sure.
Right, you're exactly right. Man, we can prepare for these others, but
Yeah.
sheesh. So something that most of the citizens don't know, or most of the voters don't know about me. Um, golly. Trying to think here. Think, well, some people, well, probably I might lose some votes off this, but I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan. Would you say that quietly?
Oh, yeah, you're really trying to live dangerously here.
Exactly.
Well, for those who are out there listening who are undecided in your race and they don't really know who they're going to vote for yet, can you just take a minute to give us an elevator pitch and tell them why you're the person who needs to represent them at City Council Place Number 2?
Absolutely. One, Thomas, I appreciate what you guys do. Let me just say thank you for everything that y'all do to help educate the voter, because that's what I'm about. I think every voter needs to do their due diligence, search out the candidates, all the information they can, meet with them if they can. So that's a great thing. So we appreciate what you're doing.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Like I said before, I'm a lifetime resident of Amarillo. I'm very passionate about our city, and I've got a vested interest in our city. I'm not just, I'm certainly not a politician, which everybody's going to understand that. I'm not a politician. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. I'm a husband. I'm a business owner. I'm just like everybody else. I mean, but Amarillo has been my home. I have not left. So I have a vested interest in here. And you brought this up before. I'm a business owner, and basically the way I look at being on city council is we are a board of directors, and we are running the business called Amarillo. So I think it's important that voters look at that and say, does the candidate have business experience? Because that's what they're doing. So I think it's very important. I want Amarillo to grow and prosper. I want us to do it in a fiscally responsible way. I want us to be smart. I am going to treat your money. I'm going to treat, and when I say your money, your taxpayer dollars, I'm going to treat it like it's yours. I am going to treat it like it's yours. And we're facing a lot of issues in Amarillo. We're, crumbling infrastructure and things that are going on, public safety. But when we look at this budget with limited resources, I'm capable of making those difficult decisions and standing up when we need to stand up. And even though it might not be popular, I'll be able to show why we need to make this decision and why I feel like it's best. So I think you can put your trust in me. I believe in small government and a free market. And I just want to make Amarillo better. I just want to behave in a trustworthy manner so that we can bring trust back into the city council and listen to and work for our citizens.
For those who are listening who want to donate or get a yard sign or just do something to help get you elected to the city council, how can they go about doing that?
Two ways, I guess, the easiest ways. We've got a website that is electdontips.com. Okay, so electdontips.com, super easy. Or I have a Facebook page as well, which is Don Tips for Amarillo City Council Place 2. They can go to those places. Please reach out to me. I have several, messengers. People can reach out to me on Messenger. And like you said before, I'm pretty easy to find anyway. With billboards and that kind of thing. Not hard to find my phone number either for business. So either one of those two ways would be great. And I welcome it. I hope a lot of people reach out, and I look forward to hearing from several people.
Absolutely. Well, Don Tips, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. And for anyone listening who hasn't decided yet, May 6th is just around the corner, so you need to be researching the candidates and making some decisions. But either way, we hope that you got the opportunity to know Don a little better tonight and find out why he wants your vote this year. But either way, Don, like I said, we really appreciate it, and we wish you all the best on your campaign, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Thomas. We appreciate you.